Acute mountain sickness strikes. The tour leader's fiancée gives the last oxygen mask to her childhood friend. I show no reaction, only watch coldly. In my previous life, Sophia handed the oxygen mask to me as I was about to suffocate. The rescue team was delayed, and Noah also died from lack of oxygen. Sophia calmly married me, but on the wedding night, she strangled me to death. If I hadn't given you the last oxygen mask, Noah wouldn't have died. I want you to know what suffocating feels like. When I opened my eyes again, memories from my past life flooded back. This time, I will let her have her wish. The entire snowy plateau is battered by fierce winds, and the air grows ever thinner. I can clearly feel my chest being squeezed. Every breath is taken with all my strength. The rescue team is still on the way and will arrive in about 10 minutes. Like me, Noah's face has turned purple from lack of oxygen. He is Sophia's childhood friend. They share a deep bond. Sophia stands not far away, handing out oxygen masks. Suddenly, she stiffens and turns sharply to look at Noah. Before long, her eyes fill with tears. She walks straight past me, her fiancé, and strides toward Noah. "Noah, are you okay?" Sophia clasps his hand, tears streaming down her face. "Sophia, I'm fine," Noah says, moved, pulling her into his arms. A passerby might think they were lovers reunited after a long separation. Yet I am clearly Sophia's fiancé, and I don't get so much as a concerned glance. My heart aches faintly. Everything before my eyes blurs and then sharpens again, repeating like that. It isn't until the assistant tour guide, Leo, comes over with a portable loudspeaker to remind everyone that Sophia finally deigns to spare me a look. She's still leaning in Noah's arms, staring at me with an icy face and a tone full of impatience. I've told you before, if you have a history of heart disease or limited mobility, do not follow along. And now look, supplies are completely insufficient. What do you expect me to do? Sophia is a well-known guide in this area, leading several groups at once. With the situation feeling so urgent, everyone trusts her implicitly. So when she says the wind is like this, the rain is like that, they believe her. In reality, she ignored the weather forecast and blindly led tourists up to the plateau. I followed because I was worried about her. Instead, it's turned into my responsibility. The surrounding tourists in the group all chimed in against me, hurling the harshest words. Some children even took the dry berry pastries on the ground and threw them at me. Before long, I was a complete mess, carrying an unpleasant smell. Seeing that everyone stood opposed to me, Noah slowly curled a mocking smile. He lowered his eyelids and asked Sophia, "Sophia, you only have one oxygen mask left." As he spoke, he stepped back toward the cliff, putting on the look of a noble martyr. "Why don't you give the mask to Ethan? He's in poor health and disabled. I shouldn't be so selfish as to deprive him of a chance to live. I'd be content just to see you one more time before I die." Sophia trembled, clutching him with all her might so he wouldn't go. "Noah, don't say those frightening things to me. How could I possibly let you die?" She had barely finished speaking when she put the only oxygen mask she had onto Noah. The tourists were moved, recording and shouting that true feelings are revealed in life and death. Only assistant guide Leo looked at me with a worried face. "But guide, what about your fiancé?" "We still don't know when the rescue team will arrive. With his physical condition, he simply can't hold on." Sophia glanced at me with disgust and snorted. "Ethan, you came on purpose, didn't you, trying to use your weak body to win sympathy so I would let Noah die? You're so vicious, not satisfied with your own disability. You want to drag Noah to his death too. I won't fall for your tricks. If you want others to die so much, then you should go die yourself first." My ears were ringing, and with her piercing voice, it was so noisy, I felt like I was about to faint the next second. I clenched the trekking pole in my hand, struggling to keep my body from collapsing. Scenes from my previous life flashed through my mind like a carousel. I had long seen Sophia's true face. From start to finish, her heart belonged only to Noah. If that's the case, I no longer needed to keep forcing myself to hold on to this relationship. Seeing that Sophia couldn't be persuaded, Leo could only hurriedly take off his own oxygen mask, but I stopped him. I forced my weakening body to speak with what little breath I had and said the last sentence to Sophia, "As you wish. I wish you and Noah happiness." I spread my arms and fell backward into the lake, clear and bottomless. In the moments falling, I only heard Leo's hysterical shouting. With a splash, the icy lake water kept pouring into my jacket. The suffocating feeling hit me, and I completely blacked out. When I woke again, I found myself lying on a local resident's bed. Someone had saved me. I hadn't died, but my whole body ached everywhere, especially this leg, trembling from the cold. My leg had been lame for years, yet after being soaked in ice water, once it regained feeling. I didn't know whether to call it a medical miracle. The locals told me to contact my friends, and only one person came to mind. Leo arrived and started nagging me. "What were you trying to prove? You jumped first, and then the rescue team came. Didn't that make things worse for you? And Sophia, too. You're clearly her rightful fiancée, yet she clings to that pretty boy and won't let go." While checking my body, Leo kept complaining about Sophia. For what he said, I could even piece together the scene. Sure enough, Leo handed me his phone to watch a video. In it, Leo scolded them both for their inaction. But Sophia completely sided with Noah, abandoning me from her mind entirely. Sophia was extremely arrogant. "Leo, you're meddling way too much. Besides, it's not like I didn't try to save him. Everyone saw. He jumped by himself. What does that have to do with me?" Even knowing from the previous life that she was ruthless enough to strangle someone with her own hands, my heart still couldn't help but sting. In a later part of the video, Sophia seemed to notice Leo filming. "What are you filming? Do you even understand privacy rights?" She spat a couple of very nasty curses and slapped the camera away. The video froze into a black screen. Leo took his phone back and rubbed his nose. "Can't help it. When you're out, you should carry something that proves who you are." I nodded in agreement and opened my mouth to speak, but my throat felt like a dried steak, creaking for a long time without producing a single word. Leo waved his hand and said, all right, take it easy on that voice. If there's anything, just write it down for me." I asked him to borrow his phone to call home and let my parents know I was okay, but no matter how I tried, I couldn't get through. Leo's expression grew awkward. Hesitantly, he said, "I saw on Sophia's feed, your parents are arranging a funeral for you." It had already been several days since I jumped into the lake. I had been in a deep sleep those days and hadn't contacted the outside world at all. The search team couldn't find my body, so they assumed I was dead. Leo sighed, borrowed a spare phone, and told me to buy a ticket and hurry back. But my body still hadn't fully recovered and needed a few more days of rest. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, and couldn't help but recall the past. In college, Sophia fell in love with me at first sight and launched an aggressive pursuit. I had never been in a relationship before, and it didn't take long for her to win me over. As soon as we confirmed our relationship, Sophia loved me so much that even her social media background was a photo of the two of us. Like that, we stuck together and dated intensely for 4 years. The turning point came around our senior year. Noah had just returned from abroad and was very dependent on Sophia. Sophia enjoyed it and liked keeping Noah under her wing. Once, Noah and I happened to enter the same photography competition. As a result, our works were exactly the same. Sophia stepped in and reported me for plagiarism. No matter how I explained, she wouldn't believe me. "Ethan, don't I know what you're capable of? Noah has just returned from studying abroad and needs work to prove himself, and you've developed such a disgusting idea." In the end, that championship and the meager cash prize fell into Noah's hands. And I, bearing all the blame, lost any chance to enter photography contests ever again. Sophia, however, soothed me with a single, airy kiss. From then on, I grew increasingly disgusted with Noah, even vying for Sophia's attention in front of him. Sophia repeatedly stood by Noah's side. I became more and more insecure. During a mountain climb, I even injured my leg trying to save Sophia. As a result, she grew tired of my disability and wanted to break up with me. My heart was broken, but I still agreed. The night we broke up, I got a call from her. She said she was drunk and cried, asking me to pick her up at a bar. Ignoring my friend Jake Wilson's objections, I put on my coat and left. When I entered the private room, I saw her lying naked on the sofa. Any clear-eyed person could tell at a glance. I feared that if she woke and learned what had happened, she would lose the will to live. So I took the blame. Yet she came to hate me and call me a rapist. Sophia's parents, Mr. Taylor and Mrs. Taylor, learned of the matter and forced me to get engaged to Sophia. Sophia made a fuss for days, but seeing no result, had to compromise. Even after our engagement, she didn't change her ways and spent all her time with Noah. I was so furious I felt I might go mad, which is why I followed her up to the plateau. I used the life-saving favor and the promissory note from her father, Mr. Taylor, to coerce Sophia into choosing me. Only then did she reluctantly hand over the only oxygen mask. It wasn't until now that I fully understood that forced things aren't sweet. People who don't love you won't give you a second glance, no matter what you do. Fortunately, heaven gave me a chance to start over. I recuperated at a local resident's home for a few days. Whether it was poor signal or some other reason, I couldn't reach my parents while I was recovering. It wasn't until I could walk again that I booked a ticket home. Sophia seemed to have accepted the news of my death and never came back to look for me. After getting off the plane, I hurried straight to the place where the funeral was being held. Seeing my large black and white portrait, my heart still skipped a beat. If I weren't the person in the photo, I would have believed it was a real funeral. Before I even entered, I could hear my parents and relatives wailing in grief. Their sorrow infected me, and I couldn't help my eyes welling up. If I hadn't stepped into Sophia's disaster from the start, none of this would have happened. Just as I was about to go in and announce that I was not dead, I saw Sophia arm in arm with Noah, strutting up to my parents. When my parents saw their joined hands, their expressions changed. My mother wiped her eyes and said, "Sophia, didn't you say you were too busy to attend the funeral? Who is the gentleman beside you?" Sophia was still using the title of my fiancée, and bringing Noah out so openly drew a lot of disapproving looks from the relatives. "Sophia, Ethan's 7-day memorial hasn't even passed yet. How can you? Oh, this is indecent and improper. If Ethan could see this from heaven, he'd be so angry he'd come back to life." Noah stood beside her. "Sophia, do Ethan's family members not like us? But I just wanted to come and see." As he spoke, his eyes immediately reddened. My family, who had never seen anyone like him, fell silent. Sophia stood in front of him with a look of indifference. "If Noah hadn't said he wanted to come, I wouldn't have. You people are as coarse as Ethan. It was him who blackmailed my parents with that thing, which is why I ended up engaged to him. If you have any sense, hurry up and return the exchanged family crest to me. Before we got engaged, we had a proper diviner consulted. The families on both sides had exchanged family crests. If one party wants to break off the engagement, they must return the crest to each other. Otherwise, there will be backlash." My parents, hearing Sophia's words, clutched at their chests in anger, their breathing heaving as if they were about to faint. I couldn't stand it any longer. I strode over and steadied my parents. The dead man, coming back to life, immediately scared everyone into silence. Sophia's eyes widened, her face incredulous. "Ethan, you're not dead?" I sneered. "That really must be a disappointment for you." Only then did my parents realize what had happened and burst into tears of joy. "Son, you're still alive? That's wonderful." Sophia abruptly cut off our tender moment, shouting, "Ethan, how shameless can you be, faking your death to deceive people? This funeral isn't just a way for you to swindle condolence money, is it?" She scanned the people present with a self-righteous look. "You all cried over Ethan's death, thinking you were grieving, but their family was scheming to hold a funeral and collect money from you. If everyone there hadn't been close relatives and friends, Sophia might have actually stirred them up." The tardy Mr. Taylor and Mrs. Taylor hurriedly grabbed her, keeping her from continuing her outrageous words. Even from this distance, I could hear their low reprimands. "Sophia, What are you making a scene for in front of so many people? You've brought shame on the Taylor family. You dare to break off the engagement? Think about your situation. Who would want you if you call it off? Noah, who had been hiding behind Sophia the whole time, spoke up. Isn't Sophia still got me? Mr. Taylor and Mrs. Taylor gave him a look and said nothing. They had watched Noah grow up and naturally knew what kind of person he was. But of course Sophia didn't see it. Sophia shoved them away sharply. Enough. I told you I wouldn't marry him, but you forced me with my life. Ethan is so good. Why don't you marry him yourselves? You had to push me until I'm neither alive nor dead to be happy. Is that it? Mr. Taylor raised his hand and slapped her hard. Enough, you unfilial girl. Do you even know what you're saying? Then he ground his teeth and lowered his voice angrily. If you don't marry Ethan, your life will be ruined. Do you hear me? I just refuse to marry a man. How does that ruin my life? Sophia's face was full of defiance, and she wanted to argue on. I stepped forward and cut her off. Enough, Sophia. Stop it. Sophia snorted and rolled her eyes. You hypocritical, fake dead ghost. First of all, I'm not fake dead. And besides, weren't you the one who spread the news of my death? She choked and stammered. Then why didn't you say you were alive earlier? You had to hold a funeral and come here bouncing about. Is it so hard to admit you and those two old people staged the fake death? I took out the medical records from back then with a serious face. I was fighting for my life at the time. If the local residents hadn't saved me, I wouldn't be here. You can choose not to believe me, but please don't slander my parents. You want to call off the engagement? Fine, I agree. I had my parents bring over the family crest, just in time to sever things with Sophia once and for all today. I didn't expect this funeral to be for mourning my death, but for mourning this relationship. Sophia thought she'd misheard and blinked. Ethan, can you say that again? If you have the nerve to let me go, today is really a joke. Mr. Taylor and Mrs. Taylor, however, grew frantic, clinging to my hand. Ethan, we all know you're a good boy. We felt at ease in trusting Sophia to you. Look, you and Sophia were even engaged. If you break it off now, what are we supposed to do? Why don't you think it over again? By the end of their plea, their voices were filled with entreaty. I watched their trembling hands, feeling a mix of emotions. They had the best intentions for their child, but Sophia didn't see it that way. She shoved them aside so they couldn't touch me anymore. Mom, Dad, can you stop being so pathetic? It was clearly him who was the beast. Why should I have to pay for it in the end? She pointed at me and said to the relatives and friends around us, I'll tell you the truth. Ethan is a rapist. If he hadn't used this to blackmail my parents, I would never have married him. Hearing how serious she sounded, some of the friends and relatives wavered. Is this for real? I don't think this young girl is lying. I've known Ethan since he was little. He couldn't do something like that, right? Hard to say. Young people these days are so reckless. Since you've already told Sophia you were breaking up, I don't have to carry this false blame any longer. I kept a calm, steady expression and asked her in return, you were unconscious at the time. Are you really sure it was me who assaulted you? Sophia, thinking I was refusing to admit it, exploded. When I woke up, I only saw you, not anyone else. And didn't you admit it yourself back then? I glanced at Mr. Taylor and Mrs. Taylor. The two of them stood to the side and heaved heavy sighs. I continued, when I got your call, I already saw you lying there. If I remember correctly, you went with Noah. So where is he? Sophia fell silent for a moment, her brows tightly knit as if trying to recall what had happened. She wanted to verify with Noah, but when she turned her head, he was already gone. I sneered inwardly. I had long known Noah was a cowardly man. Sophia clutched her head, her face full of panic. Ethan, stop talking. A chill crawled up her spine. She tried to stop me from speaking further. But would I oblige her? I'd already figured everything out back then. I only kept quiet because I was mindful of your reputation and feelings. I produced a video. In it, Sophia is laid flat on the sofa by Noah. Immediately after, several others enter the private room. The consequences speak for themselves. Sophia screamed and snatched my phone away. The screen went black. The filthy video cut off. Whispering went around. Who would have thought? She's that kind of person. Poor Ethan. He got a solid green hat and ended up bitten by the dog. If it were me, I wouldn't put up with being this wronged. I glanced at them. Only then did they slowly close their mouths. I didn't want to leave you with trauma, so I agreed to this. Mr. Taylor and Mrs. Taylor turned their heads aside, faces full of distress. Sorry, Ethan. We failed to raise our daughter properly and let you suffer. We had no choice back then. The Taylor family was caught up in such a big scandal. If the neighbors found out, Mr. Taylor said, feeling utterly ashamed, and dragged Sophia to leave. Hurry up and go. Aren't you embarrassed enough already? Sophia crouched on the ground, holding herself, her face shattered. For some reason, looking at that beautiful face now couldn't stir a scrap of pity in me. My love for her had long since worn away. She asked in a trembling voice, "Then what about when you staged breaking your leg to bind me? How do you explain that?" At the time, Noah climbed the mountain to film a video and took Sophia with him. I'm a hiking enthusiast and knew that stretch was full of muddy trails and big rocks. As soon as it rained, the path became treacherous and accidents could happen. I saw they were inexperienced and carefree, so I had to follow. Sure enough, a heavy rain came that day. Sophia fell down the slope, and I protected her. My knee slammed into a boulder, the bone shattered, and I was left lame. Young and depressed then, I felt I'd given so much to Sophia, and she never glanced my way. I could only resort to that despicable method to stay by her side. Thinking of this, I said softly, "It's wrong of me to use the debt of saving your life to coerce you into being engaged to me, but none of this was staged by me." Sophia couldn't wait to retort, "But Noah clearly told me. He told you that I pushed you, didn't he? But you didn't even let me get close at that time. You kept me several steps away the whole time. How could I have pushed you from a distance?" Sophia's face went ashen, the light in her eyes extinguished. She murmured, "How could this be?" Sophia collapsed to the ground, laughing and crying intermittently, her mental state on the brink of collapse. My friend Jake Wilson had long disliked Sophia and now couldn't help speaking up for me. In the last photography contest, Ethan and I shot the material together. It was all stored on his computer during post-production, but you took his computer and gave it to Noah to use. Not only were his files stolen, you accused him of plagiarism. Do you know how much pressure he was under then? The classmates' scorn, the advisor's coldness, the netizens' denunciations, it all seemed so vivid. Sophia looked at me helplessly. "I'm sorry, Ethan. I really didn't know." She didn't know, but blindly sided with Noah, even choosing to use my future as a stepping stone for him. At that moment, my parents arrived. They handed the family crest to me with solemn faces. "Sophia, I won't pursue what happened in the past. Take the things and leave quickly," I said softly, pressing the crest into her arms. Sophia slowly clenched it but refused to give mine back. Her tone was surprised, a little incredulous. "Are you really going to break the engagement with me?" After all, I had loved her to madness and had endured many things for her. Seeing me hand the crest over so easily made her somewhat unbelieving. "But you clearly love me so much. Why are you breaking the engagement with me?" By the time she said this, her voice already carried a faint sob. I stared into her eyes. There was astonishment and remorse in them, but no love. "I don't love you anymore." My tone was airy, and even the last thread of resentment I had toward her dissolved completely. Sophia opened her mouth as if to say something, but a bout of retching cut off everything she wanted to say. She braced herself with her hands, her face growing even paler. Remembering that she had been staying at Noah's house recently, I kindly reminded her, "If you're pregnant, don't sit on the ground." Sophia instinctively touched her belly, her expression dazed, as if she didn't even know she was pregnant. Mrs. Taylor fainted, and Mr. Taylor, flustered, shouted for an ambulance. And so that absurd funeral came to an end. As I was leaving with my badge, Sophia called after me, "Ethan, when did we become like this?" Her words stopped me. Maybe it was when Noah returned, or perhaps even earlier. But it doesn't matter anymore. After that day, Sophia never came to find me again. When I returned from the plateau, I added Leo on his global social account. He told me the video from that day had been leaked by a tourist. In the video, Sophia ignored the safety of the tourists, took them up the plateau in dangerous weather, and caused me to jump into the lake, nearly causing a fatal accident. Hashtag ruthless guide causes fatality. Hashtag Jill Ted fiancée chaldhood Hashtag how to ensure tourist safety. Several headlines climbed to the top of the trending list and stayed hot. Sophia was fired. Leo took her place. He even sighed to me. I was stuck under a young girl for years. I never thought I'd suddenly turn things around because of this. Don't know whether to feel happy or sad. I comforted him that since it had come to pass, he should make the best of it. This was all the bitter fruit Sophia had brought on herself. No one else to blame. I didn't expect this to blow up so big. Even Noah got dragged into it. He's a somewhat famous travel blogger, and netizens smelled blood and swarmed his account with insults. Isn't he disgusting? Such a hypocrite. If you want to die so badly, why don't you just do it? He's brought shame on us men. Don't you guys think the two of them look familiar? Kind of like the protagonist from that previous photography plagiarism scandal. The speed at which people dug up dirt was no joke. They quickly uncovered the truth behind that old plagiarism incident. You never really know someone. I actually complimented him on his looks before. I've never seen someone so shameless, a thief who turns the blame back on others. I genuinely feel for the fiancé. His work got stolen, and now even his fiancé isn't spared. Noah was mocked across the whole internet. If you casually opened a video, you'd see his incriminating photos down in the comments. Netizens flooded into my hiking account. Before long, I gained millions of followers. I instantly went from victim to beneficiary. Noah even called me in the middle of the night, crying that since I had already ruined him, I shouldn't take Sophia away too. Being woken up is annoying enough, so I snapped at him, "Get lost." After I hung up, I immediately blocked him. After he woke me, I tossed and turned and couldn't get back to sleep. So I lit a cigarette and stood on the balcony to look at the moonlight. When I lowered my head, I saw someone sitting on the bench by the street. It was Sophia. The night made her skin look even paler, and when she looked in my direction, she looked like a ghost come for a life. I stubbed out the cigarette and quietly drew the curtains tight. Sophia camped out downstairs at my building for several days in a row, rain or shine. But I never went down to see her once. My parents knew the feeling in my legs had returned on the plateau and shoved me into a rehab hospital. Sophia must have heard that news from somewhere, because she followed me here too. I had just finished my rehab exercises and was drenched in sweat. Sophia came over with a handkerchief and wiped my sweat away. I remember when we were dating, she used to mind the smell of sweat on me and wouldn't even hold my hand. Now that we're apart, she actually bothers to wipe my sweat. What a surprise. I remained unmoved and stepped back 2 paces. The hand holding the handkerchief froze in midair. Sophia's eyes were full of sorrow. "Ethan, are you really going to treat me like this?" Her lovely voice had grown hoarse, filled with unspeakable regret. I looked at her with a blank expression. "We've already called off the engagement. Please show some decency." "Decency?" Sophia gave a bitter laugh, the corners of her eyes reddening. "Ethan, can we not call it off? I know I was absurdly in the wrong before. I already aborted Noah's child. Can't we start over?" I looked down at her lower abdomen, now utterly flat. No wonder Noah called me in a fury in the middle of the night. It turned out Sophia had completely abandoned him. Her body trembled continuously, her bony hands cautiously climbing onto my arm. Then she bent her legs and knelt at my feet. Many patients looked over, faces full of gossip. Her face was streaked with tears, her voice miserable. "I'm sorry, Ethan. I've checked everything you said. Noah was staging it all. Even on the plateau that time, he was faking hypoxia just to force me to abandon you and choose him." I cut her off coldly. "Don't say another word. I don't want to hear it." I roughly pulled her hand away, trying to make her give up the idea of getting back together. Sophia shook her head violently. "No, I won't give up." Suddenly, as if remembering something, a flash of hope lit her eyes. Ethan, do you still remember the reconciliation card? The reconciliation card was a fad from when we were dating. If you used the reconciliation card, no matter how angry the other person was, you had to forgive them. I had printed the image of the reconciliation card, laminated it, and given it to her. She never once used it because every time I humbly lowered my head to beg for peace, Sophia always held the upper hand. I'd almost forgotten about it since she hadn't mentioned it. I snorted, mocking her naivety. It's just a scrap of paper. Besides, in my last life, she strangled me for Noah. How could I possibly forgive her? And no, it's not just a scrap. I'll go find it right now. You have to forgive me. Saying that, she picked herself up from the ground and stumbled out. By the time Sophia returned with that ragged card, a week had passed. She looked haggard, as if she hadn't slept for days. She extended her hand to me like a precious treasure. The tattered reconciliation card lay in her palm. Ethan, I found it. No matter how clean she had wiped it, I could still see the traces of having been in the trash. She had really gone to great lengths to patch things up. Forgive me, please. From now on, I'll be devoted to you and will never do those awful things again. Not only do I miss you, even my parents can't bear to lose you. They helped me recover this card. Can't bear to lose me. More like they couldn't find a better sucker to take over. After all, Sophia's scandal had spread through our social circle. Even college classmates I hadn't spoken to in ages were asking if it was true. I was tired of her coming around repeatedly and decided to make sure she gave up for good. If it were the old Ethan, maybe he would have forgiven you. But the Ethan who's died once won't. Sophia flinched sharply, her eyes trembling continuously, her face full of unmistakable shock. You? From the moment you strangled me and rebirth chose Noah, there was no longer any possibility for us. After saying this, I walked away without looking back. She didn't follow. After leaving Sophia, I began to get lucky. Even a rehabilitation specialist who had been living abroad returned to the country to develop his practice. Under his treatment, the leg I had limped on for years recovered. I picked up my hiking pole again and continued my mountaineering journey. My hiking account hadn't been updated since before I was injured. It had been several years. Many followers who had been drawn by the previous attention unfollowed me, but the numbers were still large. So when I posted a video, it blew up in less than an hour. My sense of freedom and ease resonated with many. Coupled with my past deeds, it struck a chord with netizens. Is this Ethan? He looks great. Sure enough, staying away from a jerk makes you lucky. My God, he's so inspiring. Hurts so badly and still able to get back up. If it were me, I might have been done for. Daily question. Have the scummy man and the bitch received their retribution yet? I thought Sophia would be completely out of my life. But one day, Mr. Taylor and Mrs. Taylor came to see me. Their clothes were disheveled and their hair had gone completely white. I could ignore Sophia, but I would still show the elders basic respect. Seeing that I offered no resistance, they finally spoke, exhausted. Ethan, if you have the time, could you go see Sophia? I fell silent. Mr. Taylor wiped at the tears in his eyes and continued. She's our only daughter. Even if she did something terribly foolish, that doesn't erase our blood tie. You can call us selfish or shameless, but I still want to beg you. Saying that, Mr. Taylor grabbed at his trousers as if to kneel to me. Luckily, I was quick and steadied him. If a passerby had photographed that, nothing could have washed it away. I asked, why should I go see her? Mrs. Taylor went on. The day she came home, she turned the house upside down for days looking for something. When she finally found it, she ran out to see you without even eating. After she came back, she was like someone possessed, repeating only, I killed Ethan. He will never forgive me. I must give my life to him. Then she stayed in her room refusing to eat or drink. If your mom and I hadn't taken her to the hospital, she would have died. At this point, Mrs. Taylor couldn't hold it in and covered her face, sobbing. Mr. Taylor sighed, his voice full of despair and plea. Sophia is at the Central Hospital, bed 501. I don't know why Sophia said she killed you. If you really want her life, take mine. All right, I'll go see her. At the same time, I had a question I wanted to ask her in person. I I went to the hospital Mr. Taylor had mentioned and found the ward where Sophia was. The whole ward was silent and lifeless. Sophia lay on the bed with her eyes open, like an unresponsive vegetative person. I called her several times with no reaction. Sophia, I know you can hear me. Since you don't want to speak, then listen to me. I pulled a chair and sat by her bed. I've always wanted to ask you one thing. I was the one you strangled, and you... Sophia's eyes moved slightly, and a squeak escaped her throat. After a long moment, she reluctantly looked at me, but her gaze was still hollow. Her lips trembled continuously. A few days after I strangled you to death, the police came and took me away. I couldn't stand life in prison, so I killed myself. I let out a bitter laugh in my heart. Of course, I had hoped she would at least feel a trace of remorse. The questions I wanted to ask had all been asked. There was no point in staying. I stood up, ready to leave. Sophia hurriedly sat up and grabbed my wrist. Ethan, stay with me, please. I was about to mock her when an angry roar came from the ward door. You ruined me so badly, and you still have the nerve to be here pulling at each other. It was Noah, who had been gone for a long time. His cheeks were sunken, as if he had endured severe torment. He strode over and ripped Sophia's hand away. The foreline in her hand was pulled out with it. Drops of blood kept welling up, staining the white sheet red. Sophia winced in pain, clutching the bleeding hand and curling up. Noah looked deranged. Does it hurt? I've been 100 times worse these days. Seeing his state, I hurriedly pressed the call bell. He noticed me. And you, Ethan, why are you so happy? Since he didn't die, I'll escort you. Noah pulled a fruit knife from his sleeve and charged straight at me. The fear of dying in the last life hit me again, freezing me completely. Could I be reborn only to die at their hands again? Many thoughts flashed through my mind, none of which expected this scene. Sophia had already noticed Noah's movement. Using her nimble body, she quickly slipped in front of me and took the knife from me. The sharp blade cut into flesh with a sickening sound, leaving both Noah and me stunned. Noah was terrified, suddenly letting go and collapsing onto the bed. The nurse on duty, who had rushed in after hearing the bell, saw the scene. Someone's been stabbed, call the police. Sophia fell into my arms, the wound still seeping blood. She forced out a sound, I've paid for your life. Also, I'm sorry, Ethan. As soon as she finished speaking, her body went limp and she fainted. She never woke up again. Sophia is dead. The most heartbroken are Mr. Taylor and Mrs. Taylor. I did not attend Sophia's funeral, but I was present at the courtroom when Noah was convicted. Noah kept making excuses in court. Your Honor, I only wanted to threaten her a little. She was the one who rushed at me. The judge's final hammer fell, sentencing him to death. Noah's face went hollow. He could not utter another word. After things settled, I returned to the plateau and ran into a familiar person. Leo flashed a mouthful of white teeth and waved to us. I'm your tour leader, Leo. I wish you a pleasant journey. As I passed him, he leaned close and said in my ear, congratulations on being reborn. I smiled and accepted his blessing. This summit went smoothly. Looking down at everything beneath my feet, I felt only peace. I thought to myself that I would use this trekking pole to travel to every corner of the world. This will be the guiding belief of my life for the coming decades.